Hey everybody, welcome to another lesson of learning Japanese. Today we're going to cover a pretty darn important topic, and that is how to express that something becomes a certain adjective or a certain noun. So basically this can mean like I have become smarter, or I have become stronger, or I want to become cooler, or I want to be a doctor, I want to become a dancer, something along those lines. So the way that we're gonna say or express this in Japanese is by using the verb naru. And naru here is going to be used with the adjective, the respective adjective, or the respective noun that you want to use. But depending on which one we use and which kind of adjective it is, we need to conjugate it appropriately. However, this isn't really foreign territory, because since we already know how to conjugate adjectives in order to connect them, then we know how to do this too, because it's basically the same conjugation. So for e-adjectives, what we're going to do is basically just change it into its ku form. Basically that just means dropping the final e at the end of the adjective and replacing that with the character ku. We've done this before to connect adjectives or to use them as adverbs, so we know how to do this. We should know how to do this, and if we don't, we can always refer to those past videos or just know from that short explanation that I said, because it's pretty intuitive. And then for na-adjectives, we don't drop anything, we just add the particle ni after them, because again, we've done this too before to turn na-adjectives into adverbs. We just add the particle ni. And now we have even a sweeter part of the deal. When we're using nouns, we do the same thing as na-adjectives. So we just add the particle ni right after the noun to use it with this grammar construct. Okay, so now that we know the conjugations, now we need to know the structure. So basically this grammar construct is just going to be the adjective or the noun that you're using in its particular respective conjugation plus the verb naru. So the verb naru will appear after the adjective or the noun or whatever, and the adjective or the noun or whatever will be before naru. Okay, so now that we know that, let's just go into some examples, because this is pretty easy to grasp. For our first example sentence, we have the line Watashi wa tsuyoku naritai desu. And what this translates to is I want to become strong. If we break down the sentence bit by bit, first up we have the word watashi, which means I. After watashi we have the particle wa to mark I or me as the topic of the sentence. We have after that the adjective tsuyoku, and tsuyoku is derived from the actual adjective itself, which is tsuyoi, and that's an e adjective. We want to change that into its ku form basically, so we drop the e at the end and we replace that with ku. So tsuyoi turns into tsuyoku, and that's basically all we have to do for the conjugation of the adjective itself. After that we have the verb naru, which is to become. So naru is to become, but we want to say want to become, so we change the verb naru into its tai form to express the desire to become. So naru turns into naritai. If you don't remember how to change it into its tai form, there's the previous video to reference back to, but in this case naru turns into naritai, and that changes from to become to want to become. And to end the sentence we have the word desu, because desu occurs after the tai form of verbs, at least when you're talking in a polite sentence or whatever. So watashi wa tsuyoku naritai desu means I want to become strong. Pretty simple. For our next example sentence we have the line Sengetsu yachin wa takaku narimashita. And what this literally translates to is last month my rent became high, but the kind of implicit translation of course is last month my rent got more expensive. So let's break down the sentence bit by bit. First up we have Sengetsu. This is the word that means last month. We have the word yachin, which means rent. We have the particle wa to mark rent as the topic. We have takaku, and this is going to be the e adjective takai, which means high or tall. We change that into its ku form, so we drop the e at the end, so we have taka, add the ku, so takaku. And then we have the verb naru, but here it's in its past polite form, so naru turns into narimashita. So altogether again, Sengetsu yachin wa takaku narimashita means last month my rent became more expensive. For our next example sentence, we have the line Mainichi no you ni benkyou shitaから日本語が上手になった. And what this translates to is basically because I studied almost every day, my Japanese got better or became better. So we break down the sentence bit by bit. First up we have Mainichi no you ni. And Mainichi means every day, but we have no you ni right after it, so it means kind of almost every day. After that, we have benkyou shita. Benkyou suru is a verbal noun, but we're conjugating it into its past form. So benkyou suru turns into benkyou shita to mean studied. Then after that, we have the conjunction kara to means because. So because I studied almost every day. And here comes the effect of that cause. nihongo ga jyouzu ni natta. So nihongo means Japanese. It's implied here that it is my Japanese, so basically my ability to speak Japanese is the implication here. We have ga, marking Japanese as the subject. We have jyouzu, which is the na-adjective that means basically good. We have the particle ni right after that because that's basically what the grammar construct demands when we're using a na-adjective for a noun. Then we have natta, and natta is naru in its past plain form. So naru turns into natta, and nihongo ga jyouzu ni natta means my Japanese got better. Combine that with the first part of the sentence. Mainichi no you ni benkyou shitaから日本語が上手になった means because I studied almost every day, my Japanese became better. For our next examples, let's use some nouns instead of adjectives to get a more extensive idea of this. For our next example sentence, we have the line 医者さんになりたいです and that's pretty simple. First up, we have the word 医者さん and this basically just means doctor. We have the particle ni because that's the particle we need when we use nouns. After that, we have naritai, which again I mentioned before is naru in its tai form, so it means instead of to become, to want to become, then we end the sentence with des. So that's pretty simple. Isha-san ni naritai desu just means I want to become a doctor. For our last example sentence, we have another pretty simple one. We have the line byoki ni natte shimatta, and here byoki means sick. The ni particle is being used here because we have byoki, which means sick. We have natte, and natte is the te form of the verb naru. So naru turns into natte, and the reason why it's in its te form is because we're adding on another grammar construct, the te form plus the verb shimao, to express that a verb has completely happened. So it would be natte shimao, but we're also going to make this into the past. So shimao needs to be conjugated into its past plain form, so it's going to be shimatta. So shimao turns into shimatta. So natte shimatta kind of just means to have completely become. But the implicit meaning here is just that it happened, and it's kind of regrettable because there's a sense of finality. So if we add that on to the first part of the sentence, byoki ni natte shimatta means I've become sick, and the implicit meaning is just I've become sick and it sucks, basically. Okay, so yeah, that is how we use the verb naru with adjectives and or nouns to express that something becomes an adjective or becomes a noun, and it's pretty simple, and yeah, it's definitely well used. We say such sentences a lot in everyday conversation, and yeah.